Okay, so welcome to Indoor Organic Gardens of Poughkeepsie. Again, today we have a featured guest, Adrienne Volpe. So we've asked her to join us today to maybe tell us her story in general, and especially how she's treating it, some things that she's doing using Indoor Organic Gardens products. So Adrienne, go ahead. We'll see where this thing takes us.
Well, as you know, Brad, I was chronically ill and undiagnosed with multiple tick-borne illnesses for at least 30 years. The undiagnosed illnesses led to many chronic infections in my teeth, my sinuses, my bone marrow, and I suffered from chronic shingles at least every 6 weeks for close to 30 years. I was sick, I'd say, at least 50% of the time, and often I was unable to work. In 2018, I was diagnosed finally with Lyme disease. They also found that I had Epstein-Barr and I had severe immune dysfunction, as well as several serious viral infections that were active, they weren't dormant, and they were damaging organs and other systems inside my body. In around late 2018, I started an aggressive multi-pronged treatment approach. By early 2021, I was almost finished treating, but unfortunately I was left with intractable and overwhelming fatigue. I had about zero energy and virtually no endurance. In the spring of 2021, I remember meeting you and Carol through a personal introduction here at the Indoor Organic Gardens of Poughkeepsie. And you both presented me with some really interesting information. And that information led me to believe that the natural isocyanate, sulforaphane, which is found in the organic greens, might help my fatigue. What I didn't know was that I would begin to experience several unexpected health benefits from these microgreens within about a month. In the first few weeks of taking the greens, I was pretty tired. I definitely needed some extra rest. But within about a month, I was waking up before 5 a.m. in the morning. And this is a really different occurrence for me because I've never been able to get started early in the morning. I would wake up just as tired as when I went to bed, even with 8 to 10 hours of sleep. The next day, I woke up at 6 a.m. and I was able to work a 16-hour day and a 12-hour day concurrently, which is something I've not been able to do since my early 20s. The interesting thing about that is I didn't get sick immediately after doing that. Generally, I would push myself and get sick just to try to accomplish normal everyday activities that most people take for granted. I would be down for days and I wouldn't recover well, and I would immediately fall ill again. And this cycle just kept repeating itself over and over again for many years, decades actually. Today, after a couple of months on the greens, 80 to 90% of my days, I'm able to accomplish all of my tasks. And I still have the energy to read, which I really love to do, and even walk 2.5 miles several days a week and actually start to enjoy my life, which is something I haven't been able to do for many years. Just this month, actually a couple of weeks ago, I flew to the West Coast and I visited some friends that I haven't been strong enough to visit in 3 years. I was absolutely not able to travel or get on an airplane because I was just too ill. On the trip, we hiked and we kayaked. And although I did feel pretty tired at night, I was able to rest and recover and to continue the next day, every day of my trip, like any other normal person would. And I really enjoyed my visit. So for me, traveling is one of my life's greatest pleasures, and it made me really sad the last few years that I couldn't find a way to have enough energy to be able to get on a plane and maybe deal with the consequences of flight delays or getting sick, every time I would travel. And I have to say, Brad, I'm very, very grateful to you and very grateful to Carol for the work that you're doing here, because I think that you're going to be helping others realize that there are some amazing healing and restorative properties to the microgreens. And these things exist in Mother Nature. They're grown right here in Poughkeepsie in the Indoor Organic Gardens. And I'd highly recommend that anyone who has a health concern. Any condition really, could be diabetes, could be high blood pressure, could be cardiovascular disease, maybe even cancer, right? These things all might show improvement in terms of eating the greens in their concentrated form. I'm not saying that sulforaphane or the greens are meant to treat a particular disease or health challenge. My point is that the support ingredient, the sulforaphane, helps the cells in the body address the infection and the inflammation response that happens in every cell in a disease state.
Wow. That's now, so you've been on it for
A couple of months.
a couple of months.
I've tried just about every substance and supplement known to man, and treated naturopathically for many years, as well as homeopathically. And I went to school for 2
Yeah, I'm saying
years.
you are licensed.
I'm a trained homeopath.
Right.
And the reason I did that is I wanted to try to resolve some of my own health conditions. However, I had very minimal improvement and nothing really held. So my experience here with the microgreens is that the energy, the fatigue, and the chronic exhaustion is improving every day.
Right.
The first time I tried the powder, I really didn't feel well and backed off and didn't think it was a good idea just because I wasn't feeling well. But then after we spoke again, and I gave it another try, I backed off to about a half a teaspoon to start
A day.
a day.
Yep.
And as my body adjusted to it, then I moved to a teaspoon and had some fatigue and a little bit of nausea. And then I back down a little bit and then I start over again, because in this type of a situation where someone's chronically ill, your immune system is it's just in such a horrible place. It's so vulnerable that any substance that you introduce to a non-functional immune system is going to be taxing, and it's going to be a little bit of a shock. And I really needed to have my liver start to detox with the added production of glutathione. And mind you, I had been taking synthetic glutathione in an IV and in pills quite often, and I was getting very little benefit from it. It did little to nothing for me. And so now that my liver has adjusted and my body is producing the glutathione, the detox is over and I feel good. I mean, for me to say I feel good, that's a big deal. In my home, 3 of us had Lyme disease in my immediate family, 4 actually, if you count my mother. And we spent over $100,000 in the last 3 years treating our Lyme disease with an integrative physician who did absolutely help us move forward. Had I known about the greens a little bit sooner, I might not have been spending over $1,000 a month for lots of different supplements. And, you know, I'm sure there was some benefit to the supplements, but the bottom line is I really wasn't feeling better. And so it's hard to say what they did because I just didn't feel it in terms of increased energy or improvement really in the disease state.
Right.
So the cost of the broccoli at, you know, around $100 a month or a couple of $100s a month for our household is absolutely nothing. I was spending between $1,000 and $2,000 a month. I'd like to just say, Brad, too, as a final point for me, that the reception from people is really stunning to me who've tried this, because most of the time with supplements and other products, there can be a great deal of resistance, especially in chronically ill people, because they've tried so many things and spent so much money and they get such minimal results. So when I started sharing this with friends and family and other chronically ill Lyme patients, I was absolutely stunned at how in such a short time people were reporting significant changes and saying, I'm ordering 3 months of this powder right now. I can't believe the difference in the energy. And one man I know who's having a heart procedure done next week, August 3rd, said he calls this his magic powder because he's waking up every morning without his alarm clock, has tons of energy, and feels like it's helping with his heart challenges. Although, you know, we don't know that, that's what he feels. And so the reception from people who are trying it is the most impressive thing to me. And I just wanted to say that as a final thing.
Good. Well, hopefully we'll get more and more people. And the key is too that we want more and more feedback.
I don't want to minimize, you know, a physician's role in somebody's life. At times, a physician's role in someone's life is really important.
Yeah.
However, I'm in some, you know, social media groups that consist of 20 to 30 and even 50,000 different people. And when you're crowdsourcing information, from 20 or 30 or 40,000 people who have a chronic illness, and you start to hear their feedback,
Yeah.
you realize that you're going to get much more information
Yeah.
that's real based on our experience than in any office that you'll go visit. I don't minimize the physician's role. I value the physician's role. But for me and for chronically ill people, a physician is more a consultant to us, and we enlist them as part of our treatment protocol, but we trust what works for us.
Yep.
And for us, the microgreens grown at the indoor organic gardens at Poughkeepsie are nothing short of nature's miracle.
Yeah.
They're a population actually of many doctors who got frustrated realizing that no matter how much they treated someone, they weren't helping them. And I've met some of these physicians throughout my homeopathic education.
Yep.
And so these integrative physicians are realizing that the antiquated model of one patient, one disease no longer fits.
Yep.
Around the 1980s, this population of physicians started to say that they were seeing patients with increased levels of multiple illnesses. And so they realized this model wasn't working. And then in the 90s, having treated these patients for a decade or so, they realized they weren't getting better. So patients themselves started to demand more. They wanted different methods of treatment, more natural methods of treatment, and the integrative movement is here.
Yep, I agree. Okay, well, hey, thanks for stopping by.
Thanks for
and,
having me, Rod.
Good to have you. Okay, thank you.